All right, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. Plants and garden expert Craig Hignight is joining us live to answer all of your questions there off of Facebook. And yes, again, go on our live stream, WQAD, to send them in. Let's start here, Craig, from Linda. I painted a Rose of Sharon that I bought from an area store last year this time, around springtime it says this year. I cut it back all even about a third of the way down, and I have not had any blooms this year. Will it take another year, or did I do something wrong?
You didn't do anything wrong, and it can take a year or two for one of these plants to go ahead and start filling in. It's still early in the season, and plants got a setback this spring, so just give it time.
This is from Virginia. Now that black raspberries are done producing, can I cut them down to the ground?
Actually, I'd leave them for right now. They're putting food down into next year's fruit. The time to go ahead and clear out those spent canes is in the fall or the spring.
Okay, this says, how do you kill a very large pokeweed that has already seeded? I cut them back and can't get them pulled out easily.
Whoa, pokeweed. I hope you're keeping the seed off of them. You never want to let that thing go to seed. The important thing is if you've tried to pull it out, wait until you get a little bit of new growth and then nail it with, I'd use triclopyr, the poison ivy killer. That should take out pokeweed. I know people are, you can also use Roundup, but triclopyr is a little easier on the environment.
Mike has a hydrangea bush that has only had 2 flowers for the last couple of years. Is there something that he can do to get more of those?
Well, I'd like to know what color this plant would be. If it's pink or blue and you're cutting it back in the fall or the spring, you're cutting the flowers off. The only time to prune the colored hydrangeas is in mid to late August. Let them put on a little bit of growth in the fall. That's where your buds are. I'm hoping this is a rebloomer and maybe you'll get some blooms later in the season.
All right, this one says Andrew Stutsky is watching. No, wait, he's right here.
Wait.
Here I am.
He wears many hats. Okay, we have 4 pumpkin plants. All are losing many, if not all, female blooms, and 2 are turning yellow and wilting. And what can we do to ensure the longevity and productivity of the plants?
What was the plant again?
This is 4 pumpkin plants.
Pumpkin plants, okay. Make sure that you're keeping the water up, although believe me, we've had enough rain.
Yeah.
You might go ahead and give them a side dressing of fertilizer and take a good look at the leaves and make sure that you're not getting some squash bugs where you'd want to be using some 7 on the underside of the leaves. If you're seeing spots that might be an actual fungus, then we'd be using Daconil or Funginil on both the bottom and top side of the leaf to control that.
Lisa says her ground cover of phlox look like they're dying. How does she fix it?
It's one of those things. If you've let the powdery mildew get ahead of you, phlox could really look bad by this time of the year. It's one of those plants that I suggest, you start spraying when they're only about 3 to 4 inches tall and continue your spray right up until they come into bloom. You've got to treat some of these things prophylactically before they ever show up.
All right, this question says, how do you root a Christmas cactus?
Oh, Christmas cactus is easy. What you're going to do, you're going to take cuttings about 3 to 4 inches long. You're going to lay them on the kitchen counter for about a day. Let the bottom of that cut dry out. That's called callousing. Then you're going to take a pot of just slightly damp potting soil, maybe about, damp like a crumb crust that you'd be putting on something. Fill a pot, cut holes with a knife in that growing media. Insert your cuttings. You have to have at least 1 node joint below ground level. Let it dry out, water it lightly. Let it dry out, water it very lightly. After about the 3rd or 4th watering, the plants will tug back. When you try to lift them out of the pot, at that point you can go ahead and start bringing the watering up gradually to full watering. They root very easily.
All right.
Very good.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. Continue to send your questions in off our WQAD Facebook page, and we will hopefully answer them right after this. Stay with us.
You see at 11. We continue on here on this Wednesday morning. Craig Hignight joining us for our Plants and Garden Question segment, where you can go on our Facebook page and ask your question. Let's continue right to him. I think we left off with Barry. Why does our crabapple glowering tree look so bad? The leaves are falling off and they look pathetic. Ooh.
Well, this year, because of the weather, we've seen a lot more apple scab a lot earlier in the season than we normally do. I've had people with trees that have never had problems coming up with it this year. Go out and get some all-purpose fruit tree spray and start spraying. Make sure, of course, on a tree you're going to spray from the bottom up. And next year you can start spraying right after all the petals fall off the tree to try and keep this problem under control before it ever even happens.
All right, next here I have 2 hydrangeas, never bloomed, never fertilized. Can I fertilize now?
A little bit of fertilizer, but remember, hydrangeas are not heavy feeders. I usually suggest using organic. They're very, very low analysis, very long lasting. Again, make sure that if it's a colored hydrangea, you're not pruning it at the wrong time. If it's one of the whites or the big mop heads or the limelights that are kind of yellowish, it should bloom. I don't know how old the plant is, but if it hasn't bloomed in at least 3 years, that plant would be in my compost pile.
Pete is wondering when he can transplant a daylily.
Daylily, this time of the year, if they're done blooming, go ahead and transplant them. You can transplant a daylily anytime. These are tough little puppies. The only time I suggest not transplanting is when they're actually in bloom, because it really messes the flowering up. But if you don't have bloom on them now, go ahead and start moving them.
All right, how do I thin out lavender plants?
Lavender, that's a toughie. Lavender is a very woody plant and they do not like to be disturbed. Now, if you've got a lavender, which is very unusual, that is starting to spread out, you can dig around the edge of the clump and just take out a little around the edge, but I would never, ever dig into the crown of a lavender plant.
Rick is asking, is it too warm to address lawn weeds?
For what?
Lawn weeds? Weeds in the lawn?
Well, okay. The thing is, I tell people, you can use some herbicides this time of the year. Not many, because of that 2,4-D that turns into a gas at 80 degrees. The problem is that with this time of the year, the weeds are growing so fast that they can actually outgrow the herbicide. Personally, I hate to say it, you might want to live with them for about 6 weeks and then go after them after Labor Day, when the temperature's cooling down, and use the good herbicides, and the plants are starting to put food down to get through the winter, and the herbicide works much better in the fall than in the middle of summer.
All right, wondering why our mature hydrangeas won't bloom.
I just saw a thing on TV about the fantastic bloom that they're getting on the East Coast this year in hydrangeas. I wonder what's going on in the Quad Cities. Remember, don't prune at the wrong time. Don't get carried away with fertilizer. Hydrangeas are not major feeders. So again, if it's an age problem, just give them time. And could be that it's just the weather.
Should we get one more quick?
I'm looking at Andrew right now.
Yeah, we're going to quickly. Can we get one more?
One more. My bell's a million. This is from Sharon. Hanging plants have stopped blooming. Are they going to bloom again?
Yes, the thing is, what you want to do is sometimes this time of the year, depending on the plant, you might give a little haircut, just a light nip across the top, and make sure that you're keeping the fertilizer running every 10 days. And if it's a blooming plant, definitely be using a bloom booster type fertilizer.
All right, thank you, Craig, as always, and we'll see you next week. Now, here's a look at our Bridgepoint camera in downtown Moline. GMQC at 11. We'll be right back.